It is a bittersweet day, my friends. After 24 weeks, Vinland Saga Season 2 has finally come to a close. And I said before this entire season started that this particular arc of Vinland Saga is not just my favorite segment in the Vinland Saga manga, but it's one of my top 5 favorite arcs in all of manga that I have ever read. The emotional impact that I got from reading the manga the first time through, the fact that I had no idea where the story was going, and I watched this shift within our lead protagonist character, and the fact that this show or this series, this manga, this property could even consider the fact that it could survive and continue to tell a story after killing off a character like Askeladd is insane to think about just from the get-go, right? Like, you create one of the greatest characters in fiction, and then you kill him off, and then your story continues from that point. Not only does it maintain its quality, but in some aspects, it actually manages to surpass it, which is an extraordinary feat. I love this arc so much. I love what it means for the character of Thorfinn. Thorfinn has gone on to be one of my favorite manga characters and fictional characters of all time. I love the determination within this character. I love the power of the imagery of all of the corpses that he had slain, dragging him back down into the darkness every chance that they get. I love the situations that he finds himself in, trying to rise up and be better and not utilize violence and murder and all this chaos within this incredibly chaotic world, and trying to find another way, finding the fight of a true warrior, which is the meaning of Thor saying a true warrior needs no sword, is how do we solve this situation without the sword? Is there a way? And if there is, how do we find it and what do we do? And that is the battle of a true warrior. In order to change this cycle, to shift this narrative that has persisted throughout time and throughout humanity, to be the singular piece that begins to push things into another direction when everything else is trying to push you another way. It's the ultimate act of rebellion in many, many ways. And here, many things begin to come full circle as Thorfinn finds himself coming back to Iceland with Leif Erikson, the other Thorfinn, and Einar. They finally arrive on the docks, and it's kind of this poetic beginning and ending kind of prologue and epilogue moment. And even though Vinland Saga continues on from this point too, and I'm super excited to see a season 3, I do believe it was confirmed that it will continue. So I'm really, really excited about the things that are coming up into the future. But you could look at this in a way as sort of one full story in its entirety, right? Because you can look at it from Thorfinn's childhood and what caused him to leave Iceland, and then this moment where he comes back to Iceland and has this moment of clarity and commits to his resolve about what he's going to do and what he plans to create. I would never say to stop reading or watching Vinland Saga at this point, but I do like how it kind of works as like a prologue and epilogue of this character, of where he starts and where he's going to go from here. The episode in itself, I thought, adapted the manga very, very well. It basically adapts all of chapter 100 and also a little bit of chapter 101, but it's like out of place. So once again, it kind of changes things around a little bit. It's not really a spoiler to tell you guys. At the end of the episode, Thorfinn gets a haircut, and in the manga, that doesn't happen until chapter 101, and it's not until after that that he tells them the story of what happened to him and his entire journey, which he tells them in this episode, once he arrives, and, he still has the beard and still has the long hair. It's not really that big of a change, but him telling them the story actually happens in the very next chapter, as opposed to chapter 100. They also add some anime-only stuff, most particularly with the ending, and we'll get into that, but let's just talk about Thorfinn returning to Iceland, right, and what this means, and the fear that he has while doing it, because it is that moment where he has to face the reality of his choices. Now, he's had to do that, throughout the entire course of this arc, obviously beginning it with all of the night terrors and nightmares, seeing the visions of the people he's killed, seeing the results of the things that have probably happened to other people in the situations that he's in, with people being slaves, and trying to find a different method in order to kind of handle the situations that are at hand. He's dealt with that throughout the entire arc, but coming home and actually having to face his family members, to actually have to look his sister and his mom in the eyes and own up to the things that he had done. Now he was a child, so there isn't like a blame that is placed on him from his mother in particular. Ylva is a little bit back and forth, but we'll get to that. But I think that he feels that sense of shame. Even though Leif assured him that things would be all right, Leif is sort of that comfort character. Leif is a badass, by the way. Leif is an absolute badass. Think about how many, like, first of all, Leif Erikson has all these stories about sailing the high seas and all these dangers that they faced and starvation and all this stuff. Not only that, but he actually did find Vinland. He's actually been there. He's actually, like, spoken with the natives. He brought back a peace pipe. Like, he's actually gone on all these adventures. He's always had Thor's back. And also, all of this time while Thorfinn was gone, presumed dead by many people, Leif was the one that truly believed that he was still out there and believed that he had to find him. And think about how much time, how much effort, energy, resources, funds, that he took in order to travel around from place to place, searching for Thorfinn and then searching for slaves, even finding a slave named Thorfinn that almost looks like him. Felt bad, bought him, and now Leif has like a surrogate son named Thorfinn that's just kind of hanging out with the other Thorfinn. Think about all the things that Leif did and went through in order to find this child, this man now, in his early 20s, and bring him back to Iceland. Like, that is an insane level of love and dedication and perseverance and willpower just within itself. Like, forget everything that Thorfinn is going through and Thorfinn is doing. Think about all the things that Leif Erikson has done, and even found him once at the end of season 1, lost him again, and still never gave up hope. Like, he took 16 years, never found him, lost him, and then continued to look for him. Like, this man would have dedicated his entire life to finding Thorfinn, and that is just that's just like a beautiful sentiment within itself. Just I think Leif Erikson, even though they haven't spent much time together, is going to be and is a father figure to Thorfinn, just the same way that Askeladd ended up being, and of course Thor's his actual father was. Like, Leif Erikson is also that father figure. And I think all of them have a part to play in building Thorfinn into who he is. Even though I think Askeladd and Thor's get the most amount of credit, I think Leif Erikson deserves a lot of credit too, especially just his perseverance to not give up on Thorfinn and actually be able to find him. So I just want to throw a shout out to that character, man. I love that character. So they arrive, and they do find Ylva, and she's just not having it, man. She's just like, she's in a coping method, and a lot of it's played for humor also, where she's saying like, oh, is that my brother's name, Thorfinn? I don't even remember. Like, she's very resentful. She's had to pick up the slack. There was no... after her father died, that was a traumatic event that she had to deal with. There was no male figure in the household. Thorfinn wasn't there to help up. She had to step up and do everything. So there is that like little bit of resentment, and it is played for humor, where she finds him and she's like shaking him. And then one at the end of the episode where she like punches him into the side of the house. It is played for humor, but you can tell that that's definitely Ylva's coping mechanism of kind of lashing out, and it's sort of that realization that like, I had to do everything and you weren't here. There is a little bit of that there. On Thorfinn's mother's side, I really like how this was handled. I like how instantly, a mother always knows their child, right? So immediately she knows, and I love that kind of like, as he opens the door. I love, actually, it builds up like it's an entire sequence where, after the meeting with Ylva, Thorfinn doesn't really want to go, and he's feeling uncomfortable about it. And the other Thorfinn, Bug Eyes, who we will call him, says that he doesn't know who his parents are, and he would love to be able to go see his mother and actually be able to know who she is. And so he says that he's envious of Thorfinn. And I think this is a difficult thing, because even though Thorfinn has gone through absolute hell his entire life, there are still things to have gratitude for. And maybe that's a really good message to tell and to bring to the story, is that you still, like, you haven't seen her in forever. You ran away. You had this entire life experience. She's been here. There's going to be some awkwardness, but like, she's your mom and she's alive and she's here. And it's like, the other Thorfinn's like, I don't have a mom, or if I do, I don't know who she is, And so, I don't know. I just think it's one of those moments where no matter how horrific things are, if you look for it, there is probably still something to have gratitude for, even for Thorfinn, you know. And when he first sees his mom again, I think that is that moment, and I think that, you know, he breaks down into tears, obviously not having seen her in so long, but to know that she is here, she is still living, she is still doing, you know, putting everything together, and she has the grandchildren she's taken care of, and she was able to have grandchildren, right? Like Yova got together with Ari, you know, which is great to see, because if you remember, like the very early season 1, Ari was trying so hard to get Yilva's affection, man. He was doing his work, man, and I'm glad that he finally did, and they were able to have some kids together. But you know, Thorfinn never got to experience that, you know, and so now he's here and he's brought into this world, and she fully accepts him and embraces him, because, you know, she's never going to give up on him. Now, one of the anime-only sequences is at the end of this episode, where Thorfinn goes back up to the grave that Thor's made for the slave that he bought and saved in episode 1. And I think that episode 1 really kind of encapsulates the entire message of the entire show. It's the value of this human life and how far you would be willing to go to help people and to save people. The fact that he traded 8 sheep or whatever it was, which is you know, a huge investment considering they live in this icy cold world, literally in Iceland, and you know, that's losing a lot of resources for a slave that was dying already and was never gonna make it. But Thor's was able to make it so that in his last moments he didn't die as a slave, at least not, you know, not somebody that's within the possession of somebody else, right? Not under somebody else's rule. He was quote unquote freed, even though he couldn't do anything. He was too weak and he was dying, and Thor's gave him the vision of Vinland and just this place of peace, and this place that wouldn't subject another human being to the atrocities that this guy went to. And it seems like a fantasy, and it seems like a heaven, right? And so he was able to kind of think of like a heaven in his last moments before passing. But what if it was more than that? You know, what if this was a world that could actually be created? Vinland does exist. And so what if somebody was able to create a civilization there? And what if somebody was able to make it a place that didn't have wars and didn't have slavery, and human lives were not treated as expendable or as a commodity? So what if this could actually happen? And I think that again brings everything full circle from the beginning episode of season 1 and the last episode of season 2, where Thorfinn is there and he's kind of remembering that moment with his dad. And as the time as a child, he didn't understand the purpose of it. And I like how he puts himself in both perspectives. Like, he imagines himself as the child. He imagines basically himself as the adult figure, with the child asking him the question, the child being himself. And then he also, you know, feels the hand on his shoulder, as if he is still the child and his father Thor's is the authority figure and the one kind of guiding him. And this is kind of that moment. I guess you could say maybe it's a rite of passage. Maybe it's that transition from being a boy going into a man, even though he's already an adult. But, you know, it's that rite of passage moment, which we don't really have anymore. We don't really have moments like that in life where it's this signifying event that transitions us from childhood into adulthood. We really just kind of wing it all the way through. But if there could be a possible moment, I think this might be it. This moment that they added in the anime. You could say lots of moments in Thorfinn's life were that. I mean, you could say it was when Askeladd died. You could say it was the vision and dream he had in episode 9 of season 2. You could say it was a lot of different moments. You could say it was when they called him a true warrior after he got punched in the face 100 times. You could say a lot of moments where you could say that, you know, Thorfinn fully transitioned into being a man. But this moment might also be that, because it's sort of that middle ground point between his childhood kind of lack of understanding of this moment, and then the fact that with his father, he still has further to go, where he understands where his father was, but now he has to go further than his father, which I think is also a great theme and something that you always want for your child. You know, you always want to be the best person that you can for your child, but I think that every parent wants to see their child go beyond them and do better than them and succeed where they could not. And I think that is this moment. And where Thor's was understanding that a true warrior needs no sword. But that's not it. There's more. There's further you could go. And Thorfinn is here taking that lesson, embracing it, fully realizing it within himself, being in the same spot that Thor's was, but moving past it. Like, there's further to go here. And to me, I think that's what this moment was. The ending of the episode does something really interesting. The ending of season 1, the last episode, kind of went from character to character to show you where they're all at. And it actually showed characters that have not even been in the anime yet, other than that brief little cameo. And I was expecting season 2 to also show these characters and show them again and get us primed up for season 3. But instead, it decided to do something a little bit different, and it kind of went back into the past, and it showed where different characters came from, kind of before they started to make their journey. It showed when Thors was coming to Iceland with his wife, and Ylva was the baby. It was kind of that moment right before their big journey. It went back and showed Askeladd gearing up, putting his armor on, kind of a great moment before a journey. And then it cuts to Thorfinn. Coming out now, clean shaven, he has his hair cut, and he's sort of like looking out on the horizon, getting ready for that moment before his next journey. And so it is kind of taking those two father figures, and it does show Leif too. Yeah, so it does show all three. It shows the beginning of their biggest journey. It shows Thors, Askeladd, and Leif Erikson right before the beginning of their biggest journey, and then it cuts to Thorfinn about to do the same thing in his life, taking all the lessons from his two surrogate fathers and his one actual father, putting it all together, building himself off of the stuff that he learned from the others before him, but beginning to take it into that next step, into wherever the seas will lead him to go in this moment beyond. So I thought this episode was fantastic. And as for the season overall, I really do think that they encapsulated all of the emotion that I wanted them to from this arc. They added a few things that I enjoyed. They did change the order of a few things here and there. A couple of moments were left out. Some people didn't like the characterization of Einar in the beginning because they added more to his backstory, but I thought it was fine. There are just a lot of great moments throughout this entire season that I think does justice to the manga, and I think that if this is your first time experiencing the farm arc or the slave arc, this was a great way to do it, man. I don't blame anybody for being an anime only with Vinland Saga, because the anime is of the highest quality, I think, of adaptation. And I'm somebody that's I tend to be a fan of a lot of material that has horrific adaptations. So being able to see Vinland Saga be like at least 99% accurate to the manga, I'm a very happy camper with that. So season 2 was fantastic. I look forward to rewatching it in the English dub as it comes out. Some people hate dubs, I know, but I don't. So I really like the Netflix dub for season 1. So I think at some point I'll probably give it a little bit of a break. Maybe after a few months I'll go back and I'll probably rewatch all of season 1, and then I'll go back and rewatch all of season 2, the whole series, in the English dub again, just to kind of re-experience it. But that's it, man. So this will kind of put a damper on our Mondays here. I've been reviewing the Vinland Saga anime since season 2 has began back in January, and it is now June. So unfortunately, I will not be reviewing any more episodes on Monday, which I guess clears up Monday to work on other content, but I'm going to really miss Vinland Saga being around and being something that we can talk about every Monday. But there is another anime coming out with a pacifist protagonist called Rurouni Kenshin that begins in July, and I will probably be reviewing every episode of that because Kenshin, just like Vinland Saga, is in my top 5 manga of all time. So if you guys are interested in that, if you've only been watching the Vinland reviews and you don't really watch any other content on my channel, then maybe that's an option there. If you don't, though, I mean, I do have lots of content about lots of different anime, manga, movies, and a bunch of other stuff on this channel, so go ahead and check that out if you're interested. Other than that, guys, just let me know what you thought of this season, what you thought of this episode, how you felt about it down below in the comments, and for any of the anime onlys, let me know what you're looking forward to in the future. Like, what would you like to see out of the series? And at the end of the season, does this make you want to go and pick up the manga now? Or are you going to wait for season 3 to drop? It is confirmed to be made, I do believe, although it might take a couple of years because This one took like 4 years, but we did have, COVID in the middle, so that might have put a damper on it. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Other than that, thanks for watching this review. I greatly appreciate it, you guys. Thanks for going on this journey with me, and I'm very happy to have gone on it with you guys and be able to talk about it and every week and post a video and read all the comments, and it's just been a good ride, man. And I thank you guys for it, man. I thank you guys. If you want to support the channel on a deeper level, I have channel memberships turned on, Patreon, merch store, all linked down below, as well as all the various social media links where you can follow me. Other than that, guys, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll talk to you next time.